All right, so where were we? We're on correspondence and public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair, give your name and address, and limit comments to 3 minutes. For folks who are dialing in on your phone, it is *6 to unmute yourself. If you are here on your computer screen, it's lower left-hand side of the Zoom app. And as always, a reminder that we are fairly informal here. So as we move through the agenda, if you have questions, comments, input, we welcome those as we go. At this point, Gary, Sheriff Betancourt.
Yes, thank you. I'm here at this moment as a fair board member. Would ask the court to consider the weed spraying bill at the fairgrounds as part of county property and county maintenance. So this bill, I'm guessing for 2023, is $1,083.76.
I did not know they billed you, but they shouldn't have. I wanted that done for a reason, and I figured county property, we should.
Yeah, we have paid it a couple different times, but prior to that, we didn't get billed.
I wanted it on the weed department's radar screen. That needs to be done prior to fair every year.
Right, and so if that's the request, I guess, of the court, then yeah, we shouldn't be billed for it.
No, that was a request from me for sure.
Okay.
So have you already paid it this year?
No.
Okay.
I could vouch for that.
Why don't you, if you can just get it to one of these, and I think we'll just bill it out of them. I think we should still bill, because my understanding of the weed department is that we need to show that we have money coming in that needs to not be billing money and stuff like that. So it needs to be, but the invoice should just either go to Daryl or one of these, and we can bill it out of the maintenance.
Like what you did for the maintenance bill that we just got.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay.
We appreciate it. I mean, and not to say, you know, that we don't appreciate, but yes. And we know it's Gilliam County property and stuff like that. And he does come in the spring and take care of it for us, but we do appreciate it. But it is a chunk of money that, you know, that we have a low budget and everything like that. And so we appreciate that the county court takes care of that for us. So thank you.
Absolutely.
I just think it was a real priority because they have a bunch of people in town over that 2 or 3 week period that
Right.
wandered
Well,
through Russian thistle
been,
back there.
Right, and Doug, bless his heart, does start on it earlier in the spring for us, to make it not so bad when it comes around to that late summer, because our fair is so late. But
I'll just throw in, I mean,
Yeah.
this year's been the best
Yes.
as far as weed control.
it's been
Normally I go up there 3 or 4 times, just hand spray, and I didn't this year.
Great.
but appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. So in future, let's just go ahead and bill through the maintenance department. Any other public comments at this point? Kevin?
Well, 16889 Griner Lane, fossil internet, just gonna keep that on the record. 2 is Catherine Griner, City Administrator, City of Condon. I'm cordially inviting everyone to come to our meeting tomorrow night, Thursday at 5:30. It can be attended via Zoom or in person at the Memorial Hall to discuss the EPA grant to abate the Condon grade school building. Also, 2, it's really important that we have community involvement on this grant application. So the more the merrier tomorrow. Again, if you can just sign in and just listen in for a bit, that would be great. It's actually going through this is, I guess, as my port commissioner job too, and my board membership on environmental century of the Port of Arlington. They're going to take comments on the grant, and it's available. The application is available on the City of Condon's website and also the Port of Arlington's website. And two is they also want to know in the grant, they're asking for community aspirations of the building. So there will be some discussion about what you want to see the grade school to turn into after this. And so, just to keep everyone up to date, once we get through the abatement, we're also meeting with, and if Jed's on, you can add anything.
It's not on right now.
The architect engineer firm that's gonna be coming in and doing some testing through a grant from the state of Oregon. So keep your ear to the city's website and to the community bulletin board on future, what's going on with the concrete school.
Catherine, how do you get the link? Cause I'm gonna be on the road.
I can email it to you.
Could you do that?
Yes, I will put that down.
And to circle back on the fiber, Catherine, I have a meeting with Nick Green on Monday, so. It is moving, we promise. Any other public comment at this point? If not, correspondence, there's a couple of items. One, as part of the packet, is the Q2 public health report that Leah and Daleen put together. It is a monster, but if you want to kind of see where funds have been expended on the public health side, that's all part of the packet. In addition, we had a couple of last minute letters that came in after the packet was released, so these will be added after we're done with the meeting. But there's a letter from Les Ruark, and I'm just getting it opened. That is in relationship to item 6.2, which is the discussion of the deputy clerk position. It's a long letter, so I will just summarize by saying that, in essence, Les is asking the court to continue to have 2 full-time FTEs in the county clerk's office, and has a variety of reasons, mostly focused around election integrity. So folks want to view that in its entirety. It will become part of the packet, and it will be online as soon as we are out of here and Delaney has a chance to get it posted. The other one comes from Reen Durfee. Just open hers really quick. She is writing several items. I will just again summarize them because it's a fairly lengthy letter. First one is talking about the senior transportation and senior services departments, particularly encouraging, I think, the court to, or the public transportation department to continue to do the on-demand door-to-door service that we currently provide. And stating that it's an essential service to the county and our residents. The second item she raised is, again, the county clerk as deputy position. And again, encouraging that the court consider or have 2 full-time FTEs. And then the third item is encouraging us to continue to have all of the services within the courthouse, so not moving anybody outside of the courthouse, specifically related to Summit Springs. So if anybody is interested in reading either of those letters, again, they will be part of the packet, which is online on the county's website. We'll get them posted as soon as we get out of the meeting. Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. Any questions about this one?
I do.
You have questions?
4.4 and 4.7.
Okay. Well, thankfully, they're here.
Just 4.4 is about the camera system in the courthouse, is that correct?
Yes, that is
Security
no, 4.3 is the panic button monitoring. The IGA that you sent over.
No, that's
is
what
what
I
his
meant,
question.
I meant 4.3.
Oh,
Oh,
4.3, yes,
4.3.
that's the panic button monitoring system in the courthouse.
You're looking at Chris.
Yes, the thing with IES, the panic button monitoring agreement, that's for the ones here in the courthouse.
And it's not used for anything other than what it kind of says there. It's not used for like employee tracking?
No, there's buttons in the offices and when they put their, they pull this button down and it calls this, the IES, whatever they are, alarm system in Portland, who then call 911. And then, it tells the 911, people what room this alarm's going off in.
And if I read that correctly, it's only like $540 a year.
And court security budget pays for it. Yeah. But the, as the county judge signs the agreement. Yeah.
And then 4.6,
Then on
The ambulance
4
service
section, no,
Oh, that's the ASA one.
yeah,
Yeah,
I just wanted to,
finally, 5 months. Yeah,
and we did follow those recommendations and
yeah.
mutual,
Well,
the mutual aids agreement for one thing I was wondering
Yes.
about.
and so the recommendations are, all they are recommendations.
Right,
Yes, and those mutual aid agreements are up to those specific ambulances to do with their own entities. Yeah, each ambulance has to have their own mutual aid agreements with their
Okay.
own type of people, whatever. So, yeah, and recommendations are what they need to do within their own agency.
okay.
But recommendations are recommendations, and what's the other thing, yeah.
It was EMTs, EMS was mainly the
Yeah.
language and it looked like you changed that, so.
Yeah. Yeah, it only took us, we met in March and then I sent that off the 1st of April and it only took me 5 months to get it back from them. And then they wanted that one language changed on page 7, paragraph 5. I changed that, sent it back, and then, I mean, within 24 hours, I had it back from them again with that letter saying, hey, okay, everything's good. Now county court sign off and then I'll, as soon as sign off's done, send them a total sign off copy and we're good to go forward until the state says, okay, we have problems. with your
Problems
funding. Yeah. So, yeah.
And a copy of that is kept in the court's files as well.
Yeah, they keep a copy, I have a copy, and then a copy goes to the state, and then I send a copy to everyone that's on the advisory committee board.
All right, I move to approve consent agenda.
So it was brought up during our meeting that me being a county court member and serving on that committee could be potential problems. So I don't know if I should,
On which one?
on the ambulance service area plan. So
Oh, yeah,
I'm just gonna state, maybe I just state for the record that I did help with,
Write it.
yes, but there was mostly other people.
And you also don't have a conflict because there's no
There's
monetary
no.
thing
there's no
attached to it,
financial
so.
gain for you.
Okay, perfect.
So you're
Second.
okay to vote. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of October 18th, 2023 regular meeting minutes, consider approval of November bills pending review, consider approval of Gilliam County Courthouse panic button monitoring agreement with IES, consider approval of IGA number 6571 with Oregon Department of Corrections, consider approval of IGA number 180008 with Oregon Health Authority, and consider approval of Gilliam County Ambulance Service Area Plan. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
All right,
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Chris, you got your plan.
Yay.
All right, moving on. We will go into 5.1, which is second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2023-02 in the matter of the Gilliam County Economic Enhancement Fund. For folks who were not here at the previous meeting, I'll just do a quick recap and then we can move into action or discussion. So back on September 20th, we had the first discussion regarding revising the Economic Enhancement Fund ordinance, which for those who are unfamiliar governs the disbursement of the host fees that come in from waste management every year. On October 18th, the court held a hearing to receive public comment on the ordinance. It was lengthy and I think thorough, lots of good points raised. The county court proceeded to then hold the first reading of the ordinance on the 18th. Today, the court's asked to consider the second reading and adoption of the ordinance, and just as a process note, in order to adopt an ordinance, the county court must hold one properly noticed public hearing to receive public comment. The ordinance must be then read twice, 13 days apart to be adopted. And that's it. So if you guys would like to proceed, we would go into a second reading and then can consider final adoption.
I moved to have the second reading of ordinance number 2023-02 by title only.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded to have the second reading of ordinance number 2023-02 by title only. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. In the county court for the state of Oregon for Gilliam County, ordinance number 2023-02 in the matter of the Gilliam County Economic Enhancement Fund. And then the second motion to accept and adopt.
I move to accept the second reading of the ordinance of number 2023-02 by title only and adopt the ordinance.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the second reading of ordinance number 2023-02 by title only and adopt the ordinance. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to 5.2, consider notice of intent to award the contract for Gilliam County Courthouse alterations project. Okay, so today the county court's going to be reviewing bids and issuing potentially a notice of intent to award a contract for the county courthouse alterations project. This is primarily an ADA upgrade to all 5 bathrooms, as well as reshuffling some office space and creating some new office space downstairs. You have an attachment from Jeff Schott, Pillar Consulting, who's the project manager. Delaney, do you want,
Yeah.
because you were there when these came in, or
Yeah.
this came in?
We had the meeting on Thursday, October 26th. Bids were due by 2 p.m. We only had one bid that was submitted. Jeff and I came upstairs, the bid was opened, and then they submitted their contractor responsibility RFI, which Jeff has also attached for us to review, and Jeff's recommendation is for us to award it to the Griffin Construction LLC who submitted the bid. And the price is in line with where Jeff was thinking the price for the project would be.
So I would like a little history in all this because this started before my time on the court
Mhm.
and it has grown dramatically since then. And just walk me through how we get to 600,000.
So it started with a letter from Oregon DMV, which actually came into my predecessor. So it was coming in, I think, in 2018, but I got it in 2019. Basically saying that DMV requires us to have an ADA accessible bathroom on the same level that they are providing service, or that they would need to no longer be providing service at the courthouse. And so they also had mentioned an elevator issue at the time, which we got resolved with them. It's grandfathered in under the code. And so they had dropped that one, but the bathroom is still a sticking point for them. So, yeah, so we explored bringing them upstairs because there's a bathroom that probably could be grandfathered in as ADA, but isn't probably, like, in current standards, wouldn't meet the standard. But we don't really have a space up here to put them. And so then that started a conversation with the previous court on if we're going to tear apart a bathroom, why not tear apart all 5, make them all ADA compliant. And so that's what got
There's 5 in this building.
there's 2 up top, 2 below, and then the jury bathroom. So, anyway, so that is what started the conversation. Since we had folks in already and they're gonna need to do abatement and things in the bathrooms, we started talking about, if there are any other areas of the courthouse while we're tearing it up that we should also change. And so the scope has increased to be moving the DMV down the hall to the current planning office. So that folks who are waiting can wait in the conference room down there and are sort of out of the traffic flow for county staff. And then to convert the open conference room downstairs into additional office space. And utilize some space that basically there's an alcove in the county courts, into the county courts office that is kind of wasted space. And so there's multiple sort of things that have been added. Obviously, part of it too is that we do have asbestos in a good amount of the building, and so there's some cost associated with abating that. And yeah, so that's kind of the history of how we got here. It originally came from a request from DMV.
So in the other additional work, there are gonna be some office space walls put in the old conference room downstairs.
The open one, yeah. So that one will become.
I mean, I know we're in kind of an uncomfortable situation with Miranda and Rachel, I think.
Mhm.
And I get that. I don't know when this grew when I was on here to this level. It's been a little confusing. And some clarification.
Yeah, so the office space really was just a look at how do we make the best use of the space that we have. Right now, we're in pretty good shape and where we have sufficient office space for everybody. There have been times when where there haven't been sufficient space for everyone. And so the idea was that open conference room, really for most people, I mean, some of our outside groups use it, but a lot of folks prefer to have a more private place at their meeting. And so we moved the conference room down the hall. And then we have this open space that's really not being utilized other than one day a week where DMV patrons are waiting for their turn. And so the idea was if we move DMV down, people can sit in the conference room while they're waiting. That has a connecting door between the conference room and what's currently the planning department. And then that would allow us to create a separate office space for the financial department. And then from Miranda's office, the plan envisions actually separating that into two offices. And so Miranda would have the back office. The front office would be workspace for the two of you when you're in town or in the building, and also interns, other people that we have that are here on a temporary basis that need workspace.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good use of the facility to do that. Budget wise, we have this in capital.
Absolutely.
And when we approved the restroom stuff through construction, is that part of this or that was an addition?
It's all of it. This is, well, no, the outside
That side
restrooms,
temporary,
those are in addition.
and that's what we approved for.
Mhm.
And in that, there's some talk about moving some people out of the building that would be here too.
Correct,
While we
yeah.
go through construction.
Yeah, so obviously the county court staff will be displaced because those offices will be torn up. Amy will be displaced as well because they're gonna be doing asbestos abatement right outside her door. And then Michelle will be displaced because they're tearing hers apart. And so what we're looking at is actually moving public transportation out. And here's the reason why: we don't have a place to put all of the furniture. And so we're gonna have a bunch of people being displaced, and then we need some office space to actually store all of the furniture and filing cabinets and all of it. We don't really have a place in the building to do that. So I think we're gonna temporarily displace some other offices so that we can accommodate it all. But it's a jigsaw puzzle, really. But the great news, I mean, for public is our phone system. It comes with our computers, and so we're not gonna need people to have different phone lines. If you call the same county court office, they will pick up on our computers. And so that update that we made several years ago enables us to work remotely without really disrupting people's ability to get in touch with us.
And the projected length of discomfort is?
So, yeah, so it sounds like early April. They're ready to get started as soon as the contracts are signed. So We're anticipating they will start moving in the week after Thanksgiving, assuming this all moves forward today. And then folks will be displaced until early April. And then we'll move everybody back. The whole point though of getting the bathroom outside and also vacating as much of the building as we can is so that we are not having them working around us is not slowing down the construction timeline. So we're just trying to get out of the way basically, so they can come in, get it done as quickly as possible so we can get back to business.
And then if my memory serves me correctly, the initial startup of this idea or process was added to the DMV requirements was the bollards outside, right?
Those were, we talked to Jeff about that at the same time where we reached a resolution just a couple of weeks ago.
And
Was
we've got that worked out.
basically the road department came in and put large decorative boulders all the way around the building like a week or so ago. So that, that's been addressed. Chris, Gary.
I just, one thing to think about, and I don't know if Jeff has thought about this, I'm thinking, is asbestos removal and everything. We now have a fire suppression system in this building, and with the construction and the asbestos removal and everything, please, we might have to think about getting a hold of the fire suppression system people and shutting that down or doing whatever, because that may go off. You know, something may happen to that system.
Okay.
So we may have to think about that. I don't want that, you know, all of a sudden we have sprinklers going off because of something happens. So just, hopefully Jeff has thought about that.
Okay.
Last time we had construction, we didn't have that, so.
Gary, did you have something come up?
Thank you. Since this was all kind of started by DMV, is in knowing the state and how they cut services. Is this an opportunity to do some long-term thing? Because DMV's pretty important.
Our lease we just signed with them, I think was for 5 years, that we just signed a couple months ago.
But it's worth exploring with them.
I wish they would come more than once.
Yeah, I think, to me, it's a frequency enough.
I don't know that, but I know on DMV day, the one day a month, it's.
It's busy.
It's a very busy day.
Busy.
So I would just take the roof service altogether. One day, you know, I mean, at least we have this thing. But I was just thinking of something a little more long-term.
Mhm. Ellen?
So will the DMV be closed from December through April?
So we're working it out with them to see, I think. Really, once we get the contractor on, I think we can work out probably the December one. I'm hoping that we can be open, they can be open for that. So depending on where they're tearing, which part of the building they're tearing up at the time, hopefully they can move that maybe towards the end of their demolition. And then we talked to them anyway about possibly January and February, them not being here. But we'll see if the issue is we can't really, most of our other services are remote. We can be remote pretty easily. They really can't move their machines that way. And so most likely they'll be closed January and February. My hope is that they would have access again in March if we can push the contractors to do that. That's my goal anyway. I don't know. Once we talk to the contractors the contractors are aware they're gonna have to work around circuit court. They're gonna have to work around justice court. There's a couple of things that they're working around. And so we'll put that on the list of things we'd like them to work around. Most likely January, February, though, I don't think we can avoid them needing to be closed. In the middle of construction.
Get their people out here to get everything put back up.
Yeah, because that's the other thing is they're gonna be moving into the planning department, and so we're gonna try to stagger it so that they can get in, get their stuff done. They have very specific things and they do not really allow outside folks in to move their things. So there's a lot of coordination that's happening with DMV's building folks. Oops.
Like Oregon State Lottery, they get to move their machines.
Yes,
Don't touch them.
they're very, we don't have any keys to their office, so, but they've been in touch, their building folks have been in touch with Jeff for several months now, trying to get all of those specifics lined out for the move. But most likely they'll move and then we'll need to move. And then Michelle's new office, the current DMV office, will have to do some more. We're gonna change out the carpets and things like that while we have the opportunity. So it's a lot that's happening. And any other questions? Will the rest of the employees not displaced be safe in the building given asbestos removal has been mentioned? Chris, I can double check with Jeff on the protocols for that. I'm not sure what that looks like. I'm assuming since a lot of it's gonna be at one end of the hallway and all of those employees will be displaced, they'll probably, I think they have ways of isolating it, but we'll double check that and let folks know if we need to have the building closed for a couple of days while they're doing it. We will certainly, obviously the employee safety is.
They've done an assessment on the abatement at this point, we know what we need to do.
Yeah, we have
Jeff
Pre-
has old ones, right?
previous times when they've done other work, they did assessments of the entire building, so they have a good sense. Basically, anything that has tile is hot, so
They encapsulate it usually, but when they did it before, they encapsulate them and we've been here. We've encapsulated them.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
they do. Okay, any other questions on this piece? So from a process point, commissioners, basically what you have before you is being asked to issue a notice of intent to award. There is then a 7-day challenge period. So the way the motion is written is so that we don't have to come back and do a second step, is basically issuing the notice of intent to award. That would then turn into a contract in 7 days, assuming that nobody challenges it. Given that only one person bidded, I don't think we're gonna have any challenges, so.
That's like a challenge from another bidder.
From another bidder who thinks that it was unfairly awarded or something, so.
You make me read the long one.
You got the long one.
I move to issue the notice of intent to award the contract for the Gilliam County Courthouse alterations project to the Griffin Construction LLC. Per their bid dated October 26, 2023, in the amount of $599,000. The intent to award will become an award of the contract on November 8th, 2023, contingent on no challenges to the intent to award being received by the county prior to November 8th, 2023.
Very good. I second.
Thanks.
It's been moved and seconded that we issue a notice of intent to award the contract for the Gilliam County Courthouse alterations project to Griffin Construction LLC per their bid dated October 26, 2023, in the amount of $599,000. The intent to award will become an award of the contract on November 8th, 2023, contingent on no challenges to the intent to award being received by the county prior to November 8th, 2023. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to new business. We have a Norcore update from Nicole.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to come in, make my presence known and say hello. So for the record, Nicole Beekler, Norcore Business Manager, 201 Weber Street in the Dalles. I started in my role August 14th. And just again, wanted to come out, introduce myself and say hello.
yeah, I'd say as a board member from Norcore, I think it's been kind of a long process getting to where we got Nicole in place, and when I first got on, they were starting that process. They knew that what they wanted to do, and then we had to go through all the hiring procedures and interviews, and have done that through the summer and selected Nicole, and she accepted the position, and we're tickled to death to have her.
Welcome aboard. Does anybody, while we have her here, have any questions or things about, any updates about what's happening in Norcore? Seems like it's been pretty quiet, relatively speaking, for a jail. For a jail, but relatively quiet.
Well, I mean, I kind of know what's going on, coming from anybody else. I should know what's going on.
Yeah.
I can just give a quick update. Currently, one of the items we're working through is just finalizing our pay equity analysis. And so hopefully that'll be done and wrapped up by the end of the year. And then we'll move into more of our market analysis for wages and then looking at ultimately building out our compensation philosophy. So that's a fairly large project that we've kind of tackled throughout the summer. As far as just the adult side and the juvenile side, operations are running really smoothly. Having some great conversations on the juvenile side with OYA right now. So Dana wrapped that up last week, and so hopefully we'll see some movement monetarily from that. Knock on wood again, that was great. And again, just from the adult side, really focusing on training that's going on with the team. Next week, they will be going into just their DPSST requirements with just their bloodborne pathogen, first aid CPR, and just entering that process. Just a huge shout out to our deputies on the adult side. They really truly are lifesavers on a daily basis. And I'm not sure if you saw Sheriff Flowers' post a few weeks ago in regards to Deputy Christensen, but he took his skills and training on the job to an individual who had wrecked their car a few weeks ago off Highway 97 and wanted to essentially move forward with ending his life. Deputy Christensen was able to literally walk him off the edge of the cliff. So just really appreciate that. Those are the type of people that we have.
One thing I would add is that we're renovating the juvenile side, through grants that were received to make the facility, more comfortable for those that reside there temporarily and long-term even, so that there would be more interaction between staff and, the residents, and get them out of an environment of, I guess, no contact, high, security type, uncomfortable place for them, more involvement in what they're doing, so that we can move them through the process and hopefully get them back into society and so forth. Some stuff that goes along with some of the programs with food handler card and updating the kitchen so they can do training in the food service area. And so quite a little bit of stuff going on, but moving the big, when you go in there, there's a big deal where the guard sits up or an officer sits up on top, removing that appearance form and having the staff more involved with the residents on a daily basis. I think it's a really positive thing and will be positive for the results.
And we will invite the court out once that construction project is done to just come take a look.
Anybody have any more questions for Nicole? Thanks for making the drive out and coming to see us. And sitting through all of our discussions.
Used to it. Right. I was gonna say, for those who don't know, prior to coming to Norcore, I was the HR director for Wasco County, so.
I thought your
I've
names
sat
looked
through
familiar.
the
All right, well, let's move on then. Let's go into discussion regarding deputy clerk position. So I'll just do high level and then I'll get over to Ellen. So the incumbent deputy clerk, Dawn Parham, has announced that she is planning her retirement coming up here on January 1st. So purpose of today's discussion is just to hear from
to the judge.
our county clerk. Thank you, Ellen, and just to better understand staffing needs in her office, determine what, if any, changes are needed to the job description, the FTE. Then just wanted to note, this is in the briefing as well, but for folks who haven't been following along, that in July and August, the finance director assumed the responsibility for accounts payable, working on moving the payroll and benefits over and other related financial duties that were previously performed in the clerk's office. At the time, the court opted not to change anything with the deputy clerk position because there was an incumbent in it who was planning on retiring shortly. So I did not want to create any financial harm for her in her last couple of months. So with that, I will take it over to you, Ellen.
Okay, I would like to note, accounts payable was removed from my deputy. That was the only position. it's amazing when you lose something, you think, oh my gosh, what, we're gonna have to make that up. But once it's gone, you think, how did we ever do it all? But I'm a little, communication, I'm really upset about communication we're having, because I didn't realize you're letting me keep my deputy to avoid financial harm. I wasn't notified of that. And also when we came to court March 1st to discuss the financial director position, it was never discussed that you were gonna you wanted me to drop my FTE because we removed a position or a duty. And then when I went to HR just recently, said I'm ready to hire, go out, put it out there. Then I received an email from the judge stating I needed to come to court and present numbers to prove it's a full-time position. So I've given you an Excel worksheet. They use this for CAFA reports. I've given you 2 scenarios. I've given you one for the 2080, which is 40 hours a week. And I've given you one for the 1950, which is 37.5, which is what my current deputy works. I like the 37.5 personally. As we know, if I hire a young parent, the 10-hour days don't work. Schools don't open till 8, daycare doesn't open until 8, daycare closes at 5, they don't open until 5:30. Our office is mandatory to stay open 5 days a week. It's ORS 205-242. 30 hours per week, Monday through Friday. That did try to get changed because a lot of people are going to 410s, but unfortunately the realtors and some other people argued that. So here we are. Our
So the
positions,
state, just let me ask you,
Yeah,
so
I
the
got,
state
I'm lost on
says
that too, so.
that you have to be open till what time to what time?
they said 30 hours a week. They reworded it. 30 hours a week, 5 days a week. So we're doing that 6
Because
hours.
you guys are open at.
Yeah, we're
9, it
open
goes till
longer,
5,
but
yeah.
for recording purposes, we're required to be open 30 hours a week.
5 days.
Yes, 5 days a week. That's the trick. So, and a clerk and a deputy has specific duties. We have to be certified with the state to issue death certificates, marriage license. Domestic partnerships are coming effective January 1. You can't have a temp come in and take care of it. Probate has to be signed by a clerk or a deputy. Again, temp cannot take those positions. I'm just trying to prove we have so many services we provide. We have to be available and open. And with we're this year, of course, you heard about my index project. Yeah, I came to court asking for money to get my vault books because they're not on the computer. They had to come back early this year and rescan a bunch of documents. There's 3 stages. They told me the 3rd stage would be completed by the middle of October. Now it's November. That is a crucial project in my office. I want to get those books downloaded on our recording system and indexed. Back in the day, there was 600 recordings a year. And so we can download the document, but we have to index each one. It's a long and tedious job, but once we get them on there, then our next project is to put them online. It's a huge project. It's going to take at least 2 years. It just depends on timing, how much time they have to do that, to index per day, which every day is different.
So let me ask you too, because I see on here, so you're considering bringing back passports then?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I inquired on being a passport facility. which I had to resign. We had to resign from issuing birth certificates. But we don't issue birth certificates unless somebody has a baby in a car or something. So I had to resign from that and I'm signing up for this. My only concern is I didn't budget for the equipment, camera, I don't know what else I need. And I'm hoping I can come to county court and you guys will approve that. Another thing we're adding is notary services. It seems like daily people are coming in looking for a notary. Notary though, I would like to have lots of training. I don't want them just to do it online. I want them to go to a good training because notaries it's a pretty important job. And then I asked Miranda, she's a notary, do you guys have a bond or a liability insurance for her? And she said no. And I think that's very important that we need to have in case they get sued. That we need coverage. Again, I didn't budget for that. So I'm hoping you guys will allow that.
I don't know, I think the notary thing gets worse and worse.
It does.
Because
It's getting very complicated.
I think I let mine expire 2 or 3 years ago. I still have people ask me.
Yes, we do all the time. It depends on what's going on in the county. If we're having solar or wind turbines, you never know when you're gonna have people come in and wanna do a huge research project. Last year, we had 2 guys come in and spend 3 months in my office. They were upset I only had 1 public computer. But actually it worked out because, again, our recordings in our vault books, they had to use both, so they switched off. One was in the vault, one was on the public computer. But how much time they took from my deputy,
What was to do what?
they were research, they were hired by a company for certain parcels of land to find the original deed, clear through the open deed. And they did this in here and in Hefner. But they took a lot of time. They had a lot of questions. In our vault books, we don't let them open it. We don't let them take copies of it. So that took a lot of extra time. Plus having 2 extra people in your office for 3 months was very stressful. We are doing a lot of credit cards now. Nobody pays cash or checks anymore. So that's becoming a process in itself. Thank goodness, other counties are having troubles with people with payments being processed and then the people cancel the payment. It's kind of a fraud thing going on. And so some are trying to decide if they're going to do away with it because it's an issue, but I hope that doesn't, it hasn't happened to us yet. So, again, very important. We're Oregon's getting a new voter system. It did not go as planned. It was supposed to be implemented by November of this year. There's a lot of extra things to it, which we'll probably find out with the new payroll system. So thank goodness this Secretary of State is allowing us to go through this. 2024 will be a presidential year. And the unfortunate thing is my new deputy gets to learn an old system and a new system, which in itself is going to be a lot of work. And because of this new voter system, we're trying to do Zoom meetings. We're trying to do an hour, 2 days a week. We're trying to go to places that have computer labs that we can all sit on and explore. Again, a lot of trainings, being out of the office. One of the other will be out of the office a lot. Again, I cannot express how complicated elections are becoming. Unfortunately, security, good new voter system. It's so important to have that backup. If something happened to me, you need a clerk, you need a deputy. Unless you guys feel you can come in and take over. But again, you don't have authority to sign and to process a lot of the documents. There's 4 possible elections a year. You never know. Of course, we have a primary and a general. You never know when you're gonna have a recall. Those were unheard of, but in the last 2 years, we've had 2 of them. So you never know. You might have a measure in a November, like this November, which you normally don't have an election, but you just don't know. Every year, again, you don't know. A ranked choice voting, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's coming on the ballot in the general next November. That is going to open up whole new learning and software and cost, a lot of cost to counties.
If it passes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and they're pretty certain it's gonna pass, so can't say it's going to, but
It may be another 4 years for example.
yes, but it's gonna take that long. Because they say some machines can put software on it, some machines, they have to create new machines, which those machines range from $50,000 to $100,000.
Oh, my.
So I hope that I can work that all out. So going down, this was hard. This again, I took this from a CAFA grant they use for CAFA grants. Could be high, could be low numbers. The one, juvenile and probate filings, you file the original document, but then throughout the year, you have multiple documents. Juvenile, I'm not sure. It's really went down in numbers. This year, we've only had 1 filing. I think last year we had 3, the year before 2. In 2019, we had 21 filings. So obviously that was a bad year.
Things have changed. in that
Things have
area.
changed,
That-
so-
In that environment, things have changed.
Yes, but again,
Since measure 110.
Since then.
Right. again, we don't do a lot with that because they're being transferred to circuit court. So there's not a lot of, workload in the juvenile area. Let's see.
So will you try to get people to make appointments to come in and do notary signings?
We're
or
gonna
just
have to, well, I don't know, people walk in
Yeah.
all the time. No, we're just gonna have to stop what we're doing,
Yeah,
because that's gonna be too complicated.
because it makes a difference if they walk in with one document
Mhm.
or a whole pile of them.
Yes,
So-
yes, yeah, that, I think we're just gonna have to stop what we're doing and do it. Which is gonna interrupt
Yeah.
a lot, but, so questions?
For me, I hope we can apply common sense to all of this, for all of us, but, yeah, when we took the volume of work out of that office, it looks to me like, that's how, in my mind, I'm justifying why we moved to a financial director and that piece, which I'm glad we did, because that's been what I think a real benefit to the county. So it's hard for me to get around the fact that that much workload leaves us that office and we still have a full-time position in place. I really think that we gotta really consider what you do need. And it has to be open 5 days a week, covering vacations and sick leave. I have a little problem when we start adding things through this that aren't there now.
Mhm.
And how important are passports in Gilliam County? Can they be done somewhere locally? I mean, I don't know
Wheeler
where the
County.
nearest place to get them. I know
Wheeler County and the Dow,
years ago, I had to go to Seattle to get them. That's
Right.
not
right,
necessarily convenient.
right.
Well, the clerk's office used to have
Yeah, I'm-
passports
I'm
and
just-
that was,
Yeah.
um,
I'm just
that was
asking
stopped.
because I
Right.
don't know what you do in that office
Right,
and what we really need to do and what can we do? We have, I think, some things I don't know about the whole courthouse system with some holes and some things need to be done. Is it need to be a full-time person? Is there somewhere we can join multiple duties under one? I don't know and can't make a decision on that with what I do know today, because I have some questions about other areas and what we're doing with that.
I guess it's up to you, what services, do you want to provide services to the public?
I just don't know that we want to spend a whole lot of money if we're gonna do one passport a year.
Well, and that's another thing, Gilliam County likes to compare themselves with Sherman County. And so I called Sherman, and Sherman County has 2 full-time FTEs, and they have approximately the same amount of voters, everything on here, they do. They provide services for.
Are they doing anything extra beyond these in Sherman County? Yeah, I don't know.
No. No. And again, I'm asking for the 37.5. I'm not asking for the 2,080.
I think we're stuck in the bargaining about where can we,
Well, I mean, the CBA was written so that when we have attrition, we can move to 40
if we want.
if we want to. Part of the reason that we've been doing that is for consistency, because when we've got multiple, I mean, Ellen knows this well, she's run payroll for a lot of years. When you have one group of people who is accruing vacation on a different than another group of people, they all have to be tracked separately. And so the more that we can standardize work schedules, FTEs, the easier it is on the payroll and benefits side to keep track of everybody. And so basically this position is the only position left, other than the very part-time. Judge Patnode has 2 part-time, and the DA has 2 when I say part-time, they're above 20, but below full FTE. But Dawn's is the last position that's at 37.5 in the bargaining.
And I don't think any of this can be done with temporary.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Well, that's true.
never-
That's correct.
But I do wonder about, not full-time in that position and still get good coverage. And how can we utilize somebody that would, in areas where we're a little weak, but I gotta have input from what goes on around here for that discussion.
So I know from my personal experience of working at the title company that you can go through periods of where you don't have very many recordings, and then you have tons of leases that go through, and then there's the, amendment to that lease. And I mean, I think it's really hard to, like, recordings, probably to even predict it, what you're gonna have. So,
It is, you're gonna have your slow times, you're gonna have your busy times.
yeah.
It just, you have to be available, you have to be there.
Yeah, I have a hard time from a business standpoint because I've been in business a lot. Just a little analogy with the restaurant business for me is November comes, business stops. But I gotta have employees in the spring, or I'm not gonna be able to open up when spring break hits and the traffic comes through, so I carry them through the winter and I just
Right,
every
sure,
day.
right.
all winter long.
Perfect example,
And then summer comes along and they gotta be on board. and
Yes.
go.
perfect example.
And but it's not, it might be a perfect example, but it's not a way to be very successful. It's a tough way to go. It makes it in that business, it makes it really tough.
I guess I'm having a hard time because Gilliam County has the funds. I guess I'm having a problem where you're trying to make cuts, but then you're spending money, 600,000 on redoing the bathrooms and the office space. Does that make sense?
I mean, for me,
Yeah.
I will say that I get what you're saying, but I also think when we approve a $600,000 thing, that's a one-time thing that is different than having a permanent full-time position that's fully benefited. I mean, that's in 6 years, basically, a full-time deputy would eat up what we spent on ADA upgrades, but year 7, year 8, year 9, I mean, it's actually a bigger financial decision that we're making on this than what we made on the other. If you look at the long-term longevity of the employee and how much it costs to have a full-time employee. That's not to say that there may not be cost for that. I'm just saying, I don't think it's fair to compare a one-time expenditure versus a long time, because what's actually driving the budget long time, as you know too, is PERS and other things that are attached to that, and commitments that we make to employees long term. by definition, if you look at our budget, our largest expenses are people. That's what we invest in here. And so I think I mean, for me, it's not, there have been some letters saying or asking if this is trying to balance the budget or things like that. It is not. There's no secret here that the county has plenty of resources, but I think from a stewardship of county resources, every time I think we need to ask the question, anytime we're spending the public's money, is this what we need? Do we need to spend this much? Does that make sense? Is there enough work? So I come from it at the approach, not is there enough money? Because the answer right now is yes, undeniably, but is there enough work to warrant having a full-time position? And that's simply the question I think we're trying to work through with you is there enough, given that AP came off of Dawn, which totally it's that one piece, but in concert, payroll and benefits came off out of your office too. And so one of the questions I have is, like, these are all listed as the deputy's positions, but I know, because I work with you every day, that you're the one that's sending down probate to me, not Dawn. You're the one that's signing the document. It's not Dawn. So how much of these are solely deputy responsibilities? How much of them do you end up sharing between the two of you?
I guess my point is one person has to be there to do it, either me or Dawn. I'm there all the time, I guess. I'm feeling picked on because when you hired a new assistant, new position, hired the financial director, did you guys do a time analysis? Yes?
Yeah. In other times when we have made adjustments to FTE.
So you have documentation to prove all
Yeah.
their duties and their time.
Yeah. Not to mention that I sit next to them, so I do know what they're doing. So it's a little easier when we're trying to make decisions about offices we don't run. We are going to rely on elected officials to let us know what that looks like in their office, because we don't know.
And we hope that you make those, help us make those decisions that are fiscally responsible. And I mean, just from the business side, for me and my career in life, it's hard to justify paying for somebody that doesn't have something to do while they're there. It's hard. That's a hard pill for me to swallow. But I do get, there are positions like answering the phone. If you're not there, you can't answer the phone. If you have things to monitor, you can't monitor the phone if you're not there or monitor something. You're not there to monitor. So there's places that's needed and has to be, but it's hard for me to hire somebody that may not have 40 hours of work to do when they come to work in a week. It's just me and business and the way I think.
Well, if you feel some of these duties are not accurate, then one of the suggestions to me was, Ellen, why doesn't your office take control of silly things like the outside doors? Seems like there's been some issues, people coming to meetings, the door's been locked. We're here 5 days a week. We can handle things like that. If you have other duties that you want to assign.
Yeah, all I'm asking when I make that comment, that you're comfortable with what you're saying. You are, thinking about the tax dollars that we spend with the same way that we feel about spending them. And that's all I'm saying. I mean, that is for you and your own integrity to deal with.
Okay, I'm here to ask for a 1950-hour-a-year employee.
So we had 3 job descriptions in front of us. Did we have to?
So these are, what's before you is I took the 2018 one that was approved by a very, very previous court under Judge Schaefer, and just removed the references to the accounts payable. We also removed, there was a reference for a requirement for Oregon driver's license, which we need to removed because it's not enough of a need that allows us to actually keep it on there under new state laws. So I removed those, sent it to Ellen, asked her to take a look, make any edits that she thought. So the very first one that's in the packet is her red line version. The second version is me basically taking what she had sent and adding, just kind of condensing things, making sure language matches throughout how we would normally write essential duties. And then you have a clean version because there's a lot of crossing out and moving. So really, there's sort of two things. One is updating the job description, which needs to happen if the position is going to continue to exist. And then determining at the very top is the actual the FTE, and depending on what the FTE is, that will determine whether or not it's represented by the union. So there's several sort of decisions to make along the way.
It's not remote work eligible, is it? No.
Okay, so that one would be a definitely not eligible. But I think the question, to first tackle is, it sounds like there's consensus that there should be at least a deputy clerk position. The FTE is still in question. Am I correct on that?
I would say that, yes.
Okay, so, I don't, like, the next step then, so it would be not remote work eligible. Really, the next question is sort of dialing in what the FTE should be. Then based on that, it's either eligible or not eligible, or represented or not represented. So that's really the next piece to dig into. And then assuming we can come to an agreement on that, really what it would be is probably me and Ellen sitting down, making sure that the job description is ready for approval, basically. Because there is two different versions, so seeing which one we want to go with, putting the FTE on it, and then having the court approve that.
Yeah, I
and that
think
would
that
allow Miranda to.
somehow there has to be a process in what is listed here, what they do and don't do, and what is it that we would like to have them do under that position, or was there other ways to cover some of those duties through another employee in the system? I can't answer that question until somebody digs into those details. There's some stuff in here that could go either way.
Yeah, and I mean,
Even like if you want to take mail services, and I assume you've been doing mail services for a long time.
Which is a real headache.
Yeah.
Stop right in the middle of the
Is there
day to
a way
go.
do it, or is there not? We need to have that, and we need to know that she's doing that. And that's, if that's what she's gonna do, then that's a justification.
okay, so maybe a couple of observations. One, I see some of the items on here, two of the items that I saw in particular. The training for the new voter system. I assume once the new voter system is created, my understanding it'll go live not next year, but in 2025. Will be hopefully, like, there'll be a lot of activity, but then one of those things that once you're trained, it's the maintenance of any changes that happen. And so my assumption would be that number in particular is capturing the ramp up to learning it. Is that accurate, Ellen? 104 hours is sort of anticipating there's a new system, we got to figure it out, but then it'll drop down. So that piece, I feel like initially maybe there's going to be hours for that, but long term, maybe that settles back down into, not quite as much. The other thing on the indexing of the vault books, completely agree that it's important, totally on board with getting those electronic. I would note that I think once that's done, the search requests and everything that is happening, ideally, part of the reason we're doing this is it protects the records if something happens in the vault. But number two, if we're able to put these online, it means that the public can access those without having to call the clerk's office and ask them to go dig in the vault, right? And that's essentially, we're looking at some savings in long term. The other thing I would note is that the vaulting, the index of the vault books, super important, also very short term, right? Like as soon as you get it done, you're not gonna have to go back and index another 100 years worth of
Which
stuff.
won't be for at least 2 years or more.
Correct, but I'm wondering if that one in particular could be managed with a different means. Maybe it's a temporary person that comes in and just does that. Doesn't do any of the other deputy clerk, just focuses and is not distracted by probates that are coming in and other, I mean, what, I'm just throwing out an example, like what would it look like to have one person come in just for that project on a contract, get them all indexed. And so then the deputy clerk actually isn't being drawn away from doing recordings and everything else that they want to do, right? Part of what I think the 2-year thing is that this person is not just going to be doing the indexing, they're going to have to do all of the other things on the list. And so some days they may only get an hour of indexing and some days they may get 6. But if we did a temporary person who could just index, how long would it take if they had 8 hours every day to do it? And we just paid that, knowing that it's important to preserve the records and also to hopefully at some point make them really searchable and available to the public. So,
And I can send you this Excel worksheet and you can take out hours. And as you notice, the 1950 is at 1.08. I did play with some things by removing some things. By removing the indexing, which still kept it at 1. So I can do that.
Yeah, I just think it'd be helpful to fill a position that is not long-term gonna be filled is kind of troubling for me, but if it's, you know, if we're looking at, I just think we need to analyze this to the point of what is the need for that position, for what that position really does, and then if the determination, that's the best way to do it, is we just need to go with a full-time person, and that's the determination. Are there other means? And I don't know what those options are, sitting in here at the table today.
yeah. Another thing, I mean, I touched on this before, and it's not to put you on the spot, Ellen, but I want to understand like which of these things are shared things with you, where like if you're there on a Monday and the deputy clerk is not there, that you're handling the recordings that are coming in, you're handling those things, versus which are the things that are like, no, you know, like during an election, I am designing ballots and so I'm not going to be doing some of these other things. That I think that would be helpful to understand, because at least I'm operating under the assumption, because part of these things we work on together, like the probate stuff, that you're the one primarily that handles those. And so if that's a wrong assumption on my part, I want to give you the opportunity to correct me on it, so that I'm not assuming that, no, Ellen does the probate, not the deputy. Like that could be a misunderstanding on my part. But that's kind of where I'm stuck as well, as I see some things on here that I think are really important, but could be solved with some temporary things, not having a full-time permanent person doing them. And some of these things I think like are probably shared things. And so does it really, you know, like if there's 112 hours of recording, is the deputy doing all 112 hours, or are you doing part of those? And if it's split, then I think that changes the determination. But I also understand that you deserve to have time away from the office. You deserve to have vacation time. So I want to make sure that we're being thoughtful about how to provide support, so that when you're out sick, when you want to take a 2-week vacation, if you need to do that, you've got coverage, because the office has to be open 30 hours a week. So I think it's just finding that right balance. It's not picking on you. It really is just trying to make sure that we're being thoughtful, I think, about filling positions. And making sure that we don't have people who are twiddling their thumbs because they thought they were gonna have a full-time job and it turns out they don't. So, I mean, that's my view.
I just need more information on the detail of the whole system and how it can work together.
Well, I really don't want to hire Tim to do the indexing. It's gonna be very good for the new deputy to learn indexing. Cause there are a million types.
So those arguments are helpful.
Okay.
Just so you know, you're not ignored.
Well, I will present some further documentation to you, so you can make
Well,
a
I think
decision.
we need to work together to find out where we can get to something I can say, yeah, I'm really good with that.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's, personally, I think it's one of those offices that can have ups and downs in the workload, and have no way of predicting when those workloads will.
And that makes it difficult to not, to not do what you want to do. I understand that. But are there some answers to some of those, especially on some of the project work instead of the stuff that's actually, you don't know who's gonna come in the door for a service you're supposed to provide.
And if maybe we can come back with a cleaner,
We can.
so
So how about this is,
job description. I think we've looked at 33 job descriptions this year, so.
we have, so how about this as next steps? Ellen and I can sit down, go through the drafts, and sort of settle on the essential duties, make sure that those are clean. I think those are the only real changes of substance other than the FTE.
Yep.
So she and I can work out that language. I think in terms of settling on an FTE, Ellen, if you can provide the spreadsheet, I think maybe we could tinker around with it and just maybe give the court a couple of different options. Here's how, a couple of different ways to approach it, and then bring it back. And, you know, there are potentially, I mean, I will throw this out here. I don't know how this would work. Sometimes I regret when I just throw something out without thinking about it, but we do have still an open, prevention services assistant. Maybe there's an opportunity to combine positions, into two, where it would get you potential office coverage if we're sharing. And that potentially could have a backup kind of thing. Or we could look at cross-training, existing people who are already in the building to help, or go all in on a full-time position. I mean, there are sort of a myriad of options. And so I think maybe we could bring back a couple of different options for the court to look at. And you guys could give us direction on which one you think sounds best.
Well, I'm open-minded. I just need some little more detail.
Okay,
All right.
Okay, all right. Well, we will get this back on the schedule. Hopefully in December, we can,
So, I guess that would be what I was wondering. We wouldn't be able to do anything until first meeting in December. How urgent is, I mean, how urgent do you think that?
I would like to hire somebody by January 1.
Well, I don't know if we can have the pieces together by then, but it'd be nice, but.
I think it's gonna be tough to be recruiting, honestly, I mean, we'll see, but, during the holidays, it may be tough to get a good pool of candidates.
Well, it's tough to get a good pool sometimes anyway.
It is, yeah, we've been finding that at times, so, but first step is to get the paperwork in order, so we can jump into that. And do the best we can. Okay,
You haven't said much, Leah.
No, but I do appreciate your spreadsheet.
This is
thing.
helpful.
Yeah.
Really helpful.
okay, all right, more to come on that. Let's go into 6.3 which was an addition. Which was homelessness on Shane Drive, and this is yours.
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
kind of a shower thought. But, we had the discussion in the joint meeting the other day and a little bit of it around 475 Shane Drive in Arlington and situation there, and I know that through the state of Oregon, the focus initially was on houselessness, but homelessness is right behind that. And there's funding in those pools, and we keep kicking this can down the road when it comes to that situation, those people that are living in that situation. And it's, I'm trying, I guess it's how do we move beyond me asking the city of Arlington if there's something they can do, and then with a council that meets once a week and probably not high on the priority, and yet everybody wants to do something but move it forward in some way. And I think in some of the meetings I've been in Salem, I've kind of explained that situation, and what I get is cringing looks from people in the room when I tell them what's going on there. And I guess how do we determine how many people live at that location that are actually living under what would be homeless standards? And is there funding available to help those people in that we have just said, basically our attitude is it doesn't affect us. We don't have homeless people in Arlington. There's no tents anywhere. There's no tent villages anywhere. It doesn't affect us. But we have people living in Arlington and maybe elsewhere in the county that I don't know of without some essentials like water and sewer. And we continue to let that go on without doing anything. Is there some way through the state or somebody that you can actually go into those homes and identify whether they're qualify as homeless or not homeless? Is there assistance available that through the county that we can do things like they're doing in other counties at a much bigger scale to fix the small population of people in a really bad place in Gilliam County? I think there's some issues with that, because I think even when you go into a homeless camp in Multnomah County, you have population in that camp that don't want anything but what they got. And you're gonna have the same thing in this situation. But do we not, I mean, is there a way that we can try to move the ball forward a little and see what's available that we could actually use to do something positive for that, instead of just looking over the top of it year after year after year?
I mean, I think probably a first discussion is with the property owner and just seeing where he is with it. I think we would, to your point, like run into owner tenant laws are very complicated. And so I'm a little leery about even suggesting like purchasing it and trying to do it ourselves. Like, I don't know
No, I don't
what
think-
kind of can of worms that would be.
Yeah, I just think it's like an individual basis where you have this person who's living homeless. There is funding available on how to get, I mean, I think we probably missed the boat on some of it because we didn't get on an emergency order because we didn't even think about it, those kind of things.
Well, and my concern is like not like moving people out of the park, but not, or into a better thing in the park, but then having the next person come in after them and not actually. It's like, how do we
It's
create a
whole-
permanent solution?
whole
Yeah.
can of worms in this one.
Yeah,
But here's what always happens. If we end up doing nothing because we don't know what to do with it. So we don't do anything. So everything stays, what doesn't change, doesn't change.
So
And-
some of
and that's
the,
our
so
source.
like through Capco and that stuff, can't they? Like
I don't know.
the food bank and stuff, they help with utilities, those people that have that. They just need to be maybe directed to,
I mean, one thing we could look into is buying people out of their residences that are not.
But I was wondering, you know, on top of that, is there? They are relocating people in Multnomah County with funding. Is there any of that available? I don't know how to even look at that.
You know, maybe when we're down in at AOC, we should find Jessica Vega Peterson, who's the chair of Multnomah County.
You know where she is? She's in Portugal.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, she's trying to find out how come their decriminalization works and Oregon's doesn't.
she's where?
In Portugal.
Portugal.
Well, when she returns, hopefully she'll be in Eugene, and maybe they would have some insights into what they're
There's a
doing.
contingency of them, and they've gone to try to find out why their system works and Oregon's doesn't.
Although if you read that latest, it doesn't look like it's working that well in Portugal either, but I digress.
It's easy to say, yeah, it's working over here, really, because we can't see it.
My understanding is it may not be working that well. I'm just reading.
I think there's help out there for some of those people. It was just pointing them in the right direction to get that help, but you know.
Well, I don't think
It's-
the answer is to go in and fix your plumbing. You're
No.
still living in a trailer that might burn down at any minute.
Mhm.
I can tell you, some of
You
them.
know,
are
I just don't think that's the answer, and I don't have the solution, I just think we keep kicking the can down the road and not looking at it and not doing anything with it, and we still have a problem.
Mhm. Well,
And I also think, just add that, I think we don't think we got a problem we really have, because it's not as visible as in other places.
Mhm.
But we do have a problem in Gilliam County that we should probably dig into deeper.
well, I think, I mean, one of the things that strikes me is like the definition of being homeless. I mean, we think of the tent cities that we see in Portland and Eugene and other places, but it often looks like couch surfing and other, you know, sort of hopping from, and so it's not as visible. Like lots of people who are working with this population will tell you that it's actually here, but because we don't have tent cities, we assume it's not.
Exactly.
So, but the place that it is visible somewhat is at that park. So I think, let me add it to my list to start having some conversations, and I don't have any good ideas right now,
Well,
but
I'll-
I'm sure I will.
I will do some talking too when I'm down there on, you know, what do you think of this? What would you suggest? Because they're in it, they know what they're doing.
Mhm.
And how they're getting funding and ideas, and I think the fixes may be harder for us than it is for those with a bigger population of the problem, but just,
I wonder if maybe there is a homelessness or houselessness nonprofits who even would be willing to just be a resource to us to help us navigate.
well, but don't you think legislatively that they've looked at houselessness different than homelessness, different than workforce housing? I mean, there's a definite, and when they start talking about, affordable housing, it never really speaks to workforce housing, it's speaking to homelessness and houselessness.
Couple of notes in the chat, I'll just read, I saw them come in. One came from Amy, our juvenile director, saying, I've heard that some of them are heating their homes there with their stoves and space heaters. I've spent time in several of those homes. It's heartbreaking. Some have also expressed such pride that they own their home, as they have been told they own their trailer. However, they would never have the means to move it should they need to leave. So, which I think, I mean, we've heard that. It's, you know, for some people, this is what homeownership is for them. And, but I wonder if there may be some models out there that are a little bit more conducive to helping them realize the benefits of homeownership, what that actually looks like. And then Judge Patnode said, I can provide eviction statistics due to non-payment of space rent at 475 Shane Drive. So that would maybe give us a sense of what some of that looks like.
So if they own the home and then they evict them for space rent, they don't have the means to even move
Move
the
their
home out, so it just goes,
Rolls
does
over
what?
to the next person.
So Judge Patno, does that mean that when they have an eviction on the space rental, can the park owner actually evict them from their trailer, or how does that look when they own the actual trailer itself?
Yes, they own the trailer, and if they have the means to move the trailer, they're free to do so. But not one person ever has, because they cannot.
So then they just vacate it and
They do it again.
Moves on to the next homeowner.
sell it to the next person.
And I think a lot of it is the condition of the trailer. They're spending all their money trying to heat it and make it habitable, as opposed to paying the $475 space rent. I think it's $475. Please don't quote me, but it's in the 400s.
I think that's correct.
And I think I may be wrong on this, but I think there's 40 units. And if you think of at least 2 people in every unit, many have more, you can do the math on the percentage of population in Arlington that lives there.
Well, I do think you have a percentage of people there that have taken care of their home, upgraded it, have jobs, have a means of supporting themselves that kind of fall out of that. They're still in kind of a shabby location, but they do have a house that would be considered a house, a usable house. It's below the other ones that there's not medium, but I think there's a few in that category.
Since the moratorium and eviction laws have changed, all of this is slowed as far as the evictions have gone.
All evictions have slowed.
Yes, because the law has changed on non-payment of rent.
Well, I stuck it on the agenda.
Thanks, Pat.
Here.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know where to go other than I'll have some discussions with some colleagues on what they're doing in some areas where they're really dealing with a bigger problem, and see if they have some ideas of where we can go to get some ideas to do something.
Yeah, I think maybe asking around and seeing if there's another county that's had sort of a revitalization of a park.
When I told them the other day that we don't have any houseless people because we transport them to our neighbors, they didn't like that.
Sure, Morrow County was thrilled.
Yeah, they don't, I mean, we haven't fixed the problem. There's another kick it down the road deal.
Yeah.
Kind of like Hood River transporting them to Wasco County. That is a sore subject in Wasco County. I can tell you that.
Okay, more to come on that. I think we start having some conversations, see if we can find somebody who has a good model of.
I'm just trying to elevate it so we try to work towards some sort of a solution someday.
All right, let's move into announcements and next meeting. So we just referenced AOC, that is actually happening the third week in November, so as is our usual practice, we will not be having our regular meeting, on the, what date is that, the 15th? So instead, our next meeting is gonna be December 6th, 2023. If something comes up in the interim that requires a special meeting, we will hold it and notice it as usual. And then, oh, Judge Patton was just saying there have been 45 evictions for non-payment of rent over the last 10 years. Most evictions are from 475 Shane Drive. Okay, so that's coming up next. Pat, what do you have going on?
AOC conference is going to go on. I had Norcore board meeting last week and Miranda and I did the kickoff with Oregon DOT with the EV project for behind the library last Monday before last. And that's kind of down the road before too much happens, but they've started, we're in the process to move that forward. AOC wise, I attended the LGAC meeting, and then we had the joint meeting last Friday with Public Safety and Health and Human Services working on ballot measure 110 fixes. Along with that, I was really impressed with the Stephen Hill Speak Sobriety deal that I think went through local health, didn't it? And went to both schools and went to the one in Arlington, and what a powerful tool for prevention of addiction that Oregon needs to grasp onto that model and figure out how to use it in their prevention program. And then
I think
also
they brought a bus over from Weeder County for the Weeder County kids
for
to
Connie,
come to Common, yeah.
yeah, powerful deal. That was really interesting about it was the interaction with the kids and the Q&A afterwards and the questions that came out of that. If you read into some of those questions, they were kind of tough questions.
Yeah.
What they're looking at. Yeah. Then EOCA's back in the meetings, had been meeting on Monday. I didn't get to go to all of it because of the Speak Sobriety deal in the afternoon. And then of course, Friday, I'm going down to the Health and Human Services Summit again to work on ballot measure 110 fixes. And then on the AOC convention, what's stuff going on there? My last membership meeting will be there.
Then take over as vice chair.
And then
For
take over
district.
as vice chair for the district. You have a Korean meeting down there too, so, yeah. Oh, one thing I know you probably saw, but the public might like to know that one of the energy companies from the north end of the counties reached out, they're working with DSEC to do a repower down there for 38 turbines. Do you see that? So a little economic boost someplace in the future for the north end of the county. It won't be, I mean, they did 312 or something on the big project, so it's pretty small in relationship to
Yeah,
that.
every
It's still something.
repower is a good repower.
Yeah, that's a good,
On
and
the
it also,
shepherd's
will increase the value of it to make them worth more money when they hit the tax bill.
Leo, what do you have going on?
So I went to Capco meeting last Friday. And they are working on doing more winter comparing people's homes than they have in the past. They kind of got dinged on their audit, but they already had their audit. And the auditors actually came to the meeting, presented their audit, so I thought that was interesting. Because usually they just hand you a book and say, here's the audit, so. And just been working on public health, and today is the first day of our new transportation director, so wish him luck. It's Todd Lake, so
Luck, or just wish him well.
wish him well
Full. Little bit of
and
both.
luck. So I think he's gonna work on having a driver's meeting and he's getting himself familiar and time cards came in, so we got to see those right off the bat. So,
One other thing I might add was on the EOCA meeting on Monday, and I was aware of it before, but Dan Doran, Commissioner from Umatilla County, they have filed a lawsuit with the state of Oregon because somehow in a permitting of one of the developers who wants to put a turbine project in Umatilla County, they have skipped by one of the local land use ordinances that are in place in Umatilla County, which is over and above state land use, which is you can't cite a turbine operation within 2 miles of a residence, which I'm trying to figure out where you would put one in Gilliam County if you did that, which I shared that doesn't work for us here to have that ordinance, but it's not about that. It's about the state allowing USAC to jump over the top of local control. So keep that on the radar screen. Now, I don't think there's time enough to really do too much from supporting their lawsuit. More counties jumped on, but it's like the 8th, it has to be in, and it'll have to.
Got it. Anything else from you?
no,
For me, let me just see here. We had our latest sort of rocket group meeting on, now almost 2 weeks ago. Folks are still getting, being really engaged and moving things forward, so that's exciting. Let's see, tomorrow I am planning on probably zooming into the meeting that Catherine was talking about with the grade school building. We've got the Condon can stuff is still moving forward and folks are signing up for various aspects of that. So I'm going to be doing some of that in the future. And already mentioned that I'm meeting with Nick Green next week to talk about, he already sent me an email that was like, you guys need to apply for this grant. And this is, I mean, already in the first like paragraph. So I'm like, okay, please give me all your wisdom on what needs to come next. So anyway, I'm excited to make that connection. Other than that, just normal meetings happening. The 911 board will meet again. Still working on a contract with the dispatchers. We'll see. I'm not hopeful that we will have anything in place until probably first quarter of next year. It's been a long process. So we're still waiting on that. In the interim, the director the board has signed off on having some traveling dispatchers come in, similar to traveling nurses. There's a company that has traveling dispatchers, so that is what we're using in order to keep staff from totally burning out with their 12-hour shifts, like 7 days a week, which is what they've been doing. So we're still in critical staffing shortage mode, so please be kind to a dispatcher if you see them. They are carrying a very heavy load. I will.
because they're down in dispatcher now.
Oh, they
One
are
of
down
them?
to 3 or 4, and ideal staffing in that center is 12 to 16. So they need to have 2 on the floor at all times, and so literally they're doing 12-hour shifts, like 7 days a week, without these emergency sort of relief dispatchers that are coming in.
So those people come in over the weekends, the contract ones.
So they are actually doing some daytimes now too, and so they're actually doing a lot more relief. They were a pretty penny to spend, but yeah, the board just didn't really have a choice, because if we lose any more dispatchers from just being burned out, then the center could not operate. And if there was a major issue, we don't have enough folks to help handle people calling and dispatching at the same time. So it's still in pretty critical status, but hopefully we get a contract signed that allows us to more effectively recruit when we know what we're paying the dispatchers. And because that's the sticking point right now, is recruitment stuff, because we don't know what their final salaries are going to be, because it's still in negotiation. And so It's in a weird spot right now, but hopefully it'll get resolved here in the next couple of months and I'll have better news in future meetings to report.
Please.
The only other
better news.
thing, I will be putting out some information about staff that is being displaced out of the building and how they can be reached. That kind of thing. Some of our folks are gonna be relocated downtown. I've been talking to people who have office spaces downtown that can accommodate some of us. Some of our folks are gonna be working from home because I gave them, for the most part, a choice of whether they wanted to work from home if they had capabilities or whether they wanted me to find them office space. So with kind of a combination between the two, all will be available for appointments and things like that. So that'll be an expectation. So if somebody wants to meet with them in person, we'll figure out how to facilitate that. But I'll start putting out some information so the public knows what to expect. We are expecting the contractor will be ready to go right after Thanksgiving. So they'll probably be in the building 27th, 28th of November. So it's coming quickly. And the only other kind of exciting news that I got yesterday was Governor Kotek appointed me to the Early Learning Council, which is the statewide board that sets early education policy for the entire state. So I got us a seat on it. I will be serving for the next 4 years on that board. And that is the board that sets ratios for teachers, all of that. So,
Yeah, increase that number by 1 and.
so I'm gonna work on what we can do, but it's, hopefully exciting news, and I'm planning on circling back with our directors in both centers and just identifying particularly trouble spots in some of the their regulations and requirements, just seeing what we can do to be more mindful. The state really is like kind of torn between wanting high quality, which I totally get as a parent of a almost 3-year-old, and also wanting enough slots for everybody. And so sometimes they're at cross purposes.
So you're working on daycare and I'm working on ballot measure 110.
Exactly.
How much sense does it make to give high quality daycare and good early learning services to a child that ends up as a drug addict?
Yeah. Well, hopefully, Pat, if we get them everything they need in the early.
Debbie Downer, don't you?
No, I'm just saying the state of Oregon gets so, you know, their priorities are. Anyway.
Yeah. Actually saw something interesting. It's a side note. It has nothing to do with county court, but I'm gonna throw it out there anyway, because it's helpful for people to understand that they're now doing studies. They've done studies now on kids that have gone through trauma. And kids who in their first year experience trauma, and then in the rest of their life have no trauma, stable. They compare them to kids who in their first year had stability and say in the next 16 years had trauma. The kids who had the 16 years of trauma end up doing better than the kids who in the first year did not get what they need.
Wow.
And they're able to track the differences between the kids. So it's just a reinforcement of how important those services are.
I'm getting to build up their defense mechanisms the older they get.
That's it. Well, and that's the thing is if their brains are,
Sometimes that's the only salvation they have too, is when they go to.
because there's so
daycare
much
or
of that
later
brain
to
wiring
school.
happening in that first year, that if you miss it in the first year, they're finding there's very little that they can do to fix that rewiring later if you don't get it in the first year. And part of the way that littles wire sort of normally is, even if, say, mom and dad are having issues holding it together, if they have other caring adults in their sort of environment, that can help correct the wiring. And anyway, fascinating stuff. That's all I got. Fun meeting. We've ended on homelessness and rewiring Little's brains, so.
So we leave on the 14th?
Yes.
The 14th Monday, I don't know.
So, yeah, I leave on the 13th. Are you coming to the women's thing?
On the 13th too, because you're signed up for that first day.
For the women's commissioner thing.
So Miranda tells me I'm.
And you have your sophomore stuff on Tuesday.
For the women's.
There's the women's,
Yeah.
commissioner thing on Monday.
Oh,
And then,
same thing we went to last year.
yeah,
Okay.
but it'll be interesting because last year, all the speakers, all of last year's speakers got beat or recalled
I know it.
in the interim.
That's probably not a
Really?
good.
Melissa Cribbins.
Melissa
Lindsay,
Cribbins, Melissa Lindsay, yeah.
Kelly, Clem County, still on there, Kelly Minty.
Oh, Kelly Minty was the only survivor.
So note to yourself, you never want to be a speaker at that.
I am staying,
Maybe you do.
I am staying far away.
You've been playing recall for quite a while.
I was talking about starting my own recall.
All right, it is 11:55, and I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting.